Today, I'm going to talk about whether or not you can use your own doctor when you get hurt at work. Generally speaking, the answer is no. Insurance companies have medical provider networks, and as long as these networks are valid, then if you get injured at work, you have to go to their network doctors. There are exceptions though. Sometimes insurance companies don't have medical provider networks, which means yes, you can go to whoever you want, and two, if the network isn't valid or doesn't have enough doctors, you can actually use that as an opportunity to go outside of the network. Again, another exception is if the case is denied, which means they don't want to take responsibility for the injury itself. You can go to your own doctor. And then provided the injury gets accepted and the doctor feels as though continuity of care is important for your medical condition, you can actually make the argument to stay with that non-network provider. A lot of these issues are complex and they're often litigated. However, go like this. 1, check to see if your insurance company has a medical provider network. You can obtain this network list from your insurance adjuster. Sometimes you can even Google search it. 2, you want to search for doctors in your area. Generally speaking, they have to be within a certain geographic radius of your location or where your work is, and they have to be willing to take your case. It's not a valid network if there's 50 doctors on there, but none of them take workers' comp. So to some extent, it's a game of playing telephone and calling each doctor to make sure they're actually valid network providers. From there, you send out a notice of designation for your doctor in the network, and the insurance company has 5 business days to authorize a change in treating physician to the doctor of your choosing. If they don't, again, that's another reason to go outside of the network. However, if all those things fall into place and they've authorized the doctor takes you on as a patient, then generally speaking, you need to stay within the network. Once you go outside of the network, however, there's a case to be made, again, for continuity of care, in which once you've been outside the network, you don't have to go back. Alternatively, if you do have a non-network doctor and there is no medical provider network for this particular insurance company for your injury, you can actually designate the doctor of your choosing. However, the doctor has to abide by workers' comp rules. In California, there's things like medical treatment utilization schedule, there's certain PT medical codes used for medical billing, there's certain forms for initial reports and follow-up reports, work status. There's all these things that the doctor still has to do, which makes non-network doctors a little more problematic in cases because they're really not familiar with the workers' comp laws, and so they really don't know how to kind of play the game to make sure you get what you need to in your workers' comp case. Again, this is an issue that we typically see in cases more often than not when people move out of state and they have a work injury and there's no network that covers out-of-state medical treatment. There's doctors that want to help someone, but they won't necessarily play by the rules. And so it can make it very difficult for you to get the care you need if you're seeking care from a non-network doctor. Usually as attorneys, we will provide these forms to the doctor. We'll write a letter outlining what their responsibilities are and such and how to do their job. But again, it can be very difficult to get the doctor to kind of go by workers' comp rules. And I think more often than not, a lot of the doctors that are non-network doctors who don't have a lot of experience treating workers' comp cases get frustrated by the whole process because they want to be a patient advocate and they want to give the person the treatment they need, but the insurance company is butchering them with technicalities and holding up the case. So it can be extremely problematic if you have a non-network doctor that is not familiar with workers' comp. But that being said, you can still see that doctor provided they're qualified to treat your injuries. And again, more often than not, I think most insurance companies do have medical provider networks, which means you can't, unfortunately, see your neighbor down the street who you think is a great doctor or your family doctor that you've been seeing for other reasons and such, and you have to stick within the network.